Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. Today, we're going to talk about how to solve one-step equations. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start with a simple equation. That's x minus 4 equals 1. Now, we're going to be using properties of equality, so don't just focus on getting the answer, but also focus on speaking the language of mathematics. So we're going to be using either the addition or subtraction property of equality. I'll let you know when we're using it. Now here in this case, we're solving for x. We need to isolate that variable. In order to get x by itself, we have to get rid of the 4 and the 1. So we do the opposite of subtracting 4, which is to add 4 to both sides of the equation, because whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. This is referred to as the addition property of equality. So it's balanced when you add down -4 and plus +4. That crosses out. So we go to the left, bring down x, bring down the equal sign, and then we add down 1 plus +4. That is 5. So then we have x equals 5. I want you to pay attention to the order in which how we show our work. All right. So now let's move to a different type of equation. Sometimes they can look a little different, where it looks like this. We have 13 equals, let's say, I don't know, s minus 6. In this case, we had the variable first, but now we have the variable on the right side of the equation. But the steps do not change. We can rewrite this, or we can solve it. I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite the equation to make it look like it does over here, where the variable comes first. So I have s minus 6, right, equals 13. Did I have to rewrite it? No, but I decided to do that. Now, again, solving for s, we need to get rid of the 6 and the 13. What's the opposite of subtracting 6 from s? You know it, adding 6. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side to balance the equation. Remember, you're going to be able to cross, because you're always adding down. You can cross the 6's out. -6 plus +6 is 0. So we bring down the s, bring down the equal sign, and then 13 plus 6, that's 19. Always get in the habit of circling your final answer. Okay? Now, let's say you're given a problem where instead of dealing with whole numbers, you're dealing with decimals. Doesn't matter. The process doesn't change. So let's say I have something where I have x. I don't like that. So I am going to use a better marker. That green doesn't seem to be working very well. How about I try this one here? Okay, so let's say we have x minus 2.4 equals 10.8. Okay? Isolating the variable x, we need to get rid of the 2.4 and the 10.8. So what's the opposite of subtracting 2.4 from x? Adding 2.4. And remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. So we're going to add 2.4 and draw our line. I've seen a lot of students forget to draw the line. That's just creating a table to where you can add down. Remember, -2.4 plus +2.4 is 0, so we'll cross that out and bring down the x. X plus nothing is x. Bring down the equal sign. And here we're adding 10.8, right, plus 2.4. So I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal first. 8 plus 4, that's 12, right? Carry the 1. Right? 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 2, that's 3. And bring the 1 down. And there we go. All right, looking pretty good. X equals 13.2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and, because I have a few more problems I want to solve. So let's go ahead and erase. I'll start from here. Give you time to take good notes. Now remember, if you believe I'm moving a little too fast, you can always pause the video, rewind, go back. All right, there's nothing wrong with doing that. This is how you engage when you're learning from an instructional video, okay? So let me go ahead and erase that here. Clean that up a little bit. Okay. Now, so we've been dealing with addition properties of equality. Now let's solve a problem involving a subtraction property of equality. Okay. Let's go with about v plus 6, okay, equals negative 15. Okay. Now, we want to isolate the variable v. We need to get rid of the 6 and the negative 15 in order to do that. So what's the opposite of adding 6? Subtract 6. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side of the equation. That crosses out. Bring down the v equals negative 15 plus negative 6. Negative plus a negative is a negative. 15 plus 6, that gives you 21. Okay? So you got to remember your rules for adding integers. In this case, we were adding integers with the same sign. When you add integers with the same sign, you keep the sign and add the numbers. Okay. Now, what about if we're dealing with fractions? Some students think, okay, just like we dealt with decimals, we're going to solve a problem involving fractions. The process doesn't change. We're still going to use addition or subtraction property of equality. We're just going to be dealing with fractions. So let's go ahead and solve a problem involving a fraction. So here we have p plus 1/3, okay, equals 4. All right. Some students like to do math in their head. I say, no, put it down on paper so that you can check your work. So here we have a fraction 1/3, and then we have 4. In order to add or subtract fractions, they have to have the same denominator, okay? So I want to rewrite that 4 as a fraction where you have 3 as a denominator. So what would that fraction be? Yes, you're right, 12 over 3. Why is that the case? Because 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So we're going to rewrite this equation where they have the same denominator. P plus 1/3 equals 12 over 3. See, 12 over 3 equals 4. So it's just a different form, but they still have the same value. That is, the 4 is also equal to 12 over 3. Now that we have the same denominators, we can go ahead and use our property of equality to isolate the variable p. In this case, we need to get rid of 1/3 and 12 over 3, okay, in order to get p by itself. So what's the opposite of adding 1/3? You're right, subtracting 1/3. So we subtract 1/3, and whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side of the equation. Okay, draw the line. Positive 1/3 plus negative 1/3, that's 0. Remember, you're adding down. So p plus nothing is p. We bring that down, equals. Now remember, when you are adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominator, you keep the denominator. And then in this case, we have 12 minus 1, or 12 plus a negative 1. 12 minus 1 is 11, right? But if you look at it as adding down, 12 plus negative 1, when you're adding integers with different signs, you ask yourself, is it more positive or more negative? It's more positive because 12 is greater than negative 1. So the answer is going to be positive. And then you go 12 minus 1, which is 11. That's just another way to think about it, because sometimes you might have to deal with integers. When you add integers with different signs, ask yourself, is it more negative or more positive? Keep the sign and then add or subtract the numbers. So P is equal to 11 over 3. Okay? Very good. So I think this wraps up our focus on solving one-step equations. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.